We all love them. Furry cons. They are a blast to go to and even more fun to fursuit at. Is there a time and place for fursuiting? One of my most asked questions is, should you fursuit at a furry con only, or can you suit pretty much anywhere? And so I do want to address that, yes, you can fursuit at other cons besides furry cons, and anyone who tells you otherwise is not the type of person you really want to talk to. With con season coming up, I want to clarify and encourage all of those who may be too nervous to suit at a con other than a furry convention that yes, furries do belong there and you are absolutely valid. More on that coming up soon. Now, let's get into the video.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I am Kuro from Kemono Dungeon, and in this episode, I wanted to discuss fursuiting at a non-furry convention. Some people may have different thoughts and opinions on this, but usually a lot of fursuiters are scared to go to, say, an anime convention or a comic convention and fursuit rather than cosplay. For a lot of people, they might have had a bad experience where a con goer told them that furries don't belong at anime cons or comic cons. So for these types of people to pull antics like this is really predatory and honestly gatekeeping of all sorts of conventions where like-minded people are supposed to meet and gather and have fun together. This is really unfortunate, but in my personal opinion, I think that it's no different than any other con. People at anime conventions and comic conventions are in fact dressing up. They are just dressing up as a character from a video game, a character from a movie, character from an anime, a manga, whatever it may be, and they are wearing their costumes to be appreciated just as you are wearing your costume to be appreciated. Cosplay and costuming is hard work regardless of if it is a fursuit or an anime, Marvel, movie costume, recreation, or even a Ren Fair costume. Regardless, these are hard work. They take long hours to make, whether it is wearing an animal mask or showing your face and wearing a suit of armor. It is hard regardless. And unfortunately, bad apples or bad people are going to be at any con. You're gonna get hecklers at Anthrocon, Midwest Fur Fest, any furry convention. There's gonna be people that are gonna go there just to harass you because you're wearing an animal costume, that they don't particularly understand the furry fandom. And it is really unfortunate that these people go out of their way to make, or try to make, other people miserable because they are living sad lives themselves. I personally have dealt with hecklers at both anime and furry cons. I was wearing a fursuit at a furry con and walking down the street when someone drove by and shouted derogatory things at me because I was in an animal costume. They told me to go home, go away, all sorts of junk like that. I've had hecklers at anime cons saying that I didn't belong there, or to take my costume off. I had attempts at people trying to physically and sexually harass me because they saw that I was a female presenting person in a fursuit. And unfortunately, sometimes you can't filter out the noise, but with hecklers, you just kind of have to ignore them and not give them the attention and satisfaction that they're looking for. In the case of the hecklers, just ignore them. They want a reaction out of you, and they're basically like a troll in real life. Don't listen to them, don't engage with them, eventually they'll get bored and leave you alone. However, if it goes so far as they are threatening violence or sexual assault, you need to involve the police and the con attendees there, or whoever might be in charge that can help you, as it's their job to make all their attendees there safe, furry, con goer, random person or not. Everyone there is meant to have a good time. You paid money to go there. You deserve to be safe and not harassed. Really, you could ask this question, is it okay to fursuit with anything? Is it okay to fursuit at a park, at a fair, at a bowling meet, at a fur meet? And if you look at the question this way instead of, can I fursuit at an anime con or a comic con, then the question kind of starts to make a little bit more sense. Of course you can, no one is going to stop you. Just be sure you know the rules and regulations and stipulations so that you have a pleasant experience and you don't disrupt anyone else who might be attending, because let's be real, you're not the only one that is existing there. Everyone is there to have a good time. You should be allowed to have a good time, but when your good time starts affecting someone else's good time, that's when it's a problem.
Don't be an a-hole.
Okay? Be sure to read up on rules about having your face covered. If there are any, some places don't allow your face to be covered for safety reasons. And just because you're in suit doesn't mean you're allowed to be pretentious or stuck up. Don't push someone out of the way unless you are literally about to die or hyperventilate. And this kind of brings me to my next point. If you are fursuiting in a non-furry con, they are not going to have fursuit accommodations, which means no headless lounge, most likely, no good ways to move around in suit, so like escalators aren't going to be stopped, fursuiters aren't going to be able to jump to the front of the elevator line, things like that. So in that case, it is extremely important that you find either a safe space to take off your head if there are children around, or if you don't care, just do it wherever. Make sure you have lots of water. There may not be water stations. Understand you may be waiting a while to get to the elevator because there is no special accommodation for a fursuiter, despite the fact that you might be hyperventilating. And even more so, that will bring me to another point. Consider not going alone to these things because there are no accommodations. Having a handler will come in so much use at these types of cons. I can't tell you how many times I've almost ran into people or fallen down steps because it wasn't fursuit proofed at that con. Of course, it is a good rule of thumb to always have a handler, especially if you have limited vision or limited ventilation or a heavily padded suit like I do, and my fingers aren't super dexterous, so I'm going to have a hard time getting around and doing things. It is a good rule of thumb to always have a handler, but it is extra important at non-furry spaces. And don't rely on someone being a good Samaritan, because a random stranger might not respect you, might not know what to do, and if there is an incident, your suit could be damaged, you could be hurt, or you could hurt someone else, which is even worse, and you don't want to be liable for anything. So consider going in a group and having a handler. It's just better to be safe than sorry. And consider this, there are a ton of anthropomorphic characters, such as Digimon, Pokemon, the Zootopia characters, that a lot of different people may possibly cosplay as. Even though you are not cosplaying as one of those characters, fursuits do exist within the anime and Comic-Con realms. It is not unheard of to have an animal costume walking around. So no, you are not weird. No, you are not unwelcome. Yes, it is less common because it is pretty hard to wear a full fursuit. It's warm, it's hard to breathe, vision is limited, definitely not as common, but not unheard of, so don't feel bad. And hey, maybe you'll make a friend, maybe you'll see a Pokemon suitor or someone around, especially with the resurgence of the Pokemon series right now. It may be a lot more popular to see a Pokemon suitor or cosplayer, whatever you want to call yourselves. If you love pictures and love attention like I do, you actually might be more popular at the anime and comic cons because your costume is so different. So you may actually be bombarded with people asking for photos with you, which if you're like me, that might be the greatest thing in the world. But if you are an introvert or don't want your photo taken, this actually could deter you from doing this. So depending on what end of the spectrum you are, this is either good or bad. Me, I worked very hard on this suit. I want a ton of photos of it. I want a ton of photos with people of me in it. So of course, if I go to an anime or Comic-Con, I'm gonna have a blast taking tons of photos with whoever in this suit. And you best believe I'm gonna be checking online to see who posted it and all the love that I'll get. But that is actually, in my opinion, a positive of going to a non-furry event. Other furries are seeing tons of fursuits all day at a furry con. So you're more likely to blend in. And if you are introverted, that would be great for you. But if you spent a ton of money or a ton of time on making or getting your suit and you want it appreciated, going to an anime or Comic-Con is ideal. You will get a ton of love, I promise. I mean, think about it. These take hundreds of hours of work. They're not cheap. They deserve to be shown off any chance you get. So you shouldn't just limit to wearing your suit at a furry con. If you enjoy going to comic and anime conventions, wear it there. It's a work of art, and I guarantee you, majority of the people are going to appreciate the craftsmanship at the very least. Most people might think you're cute or cool, depending on if you have a toony or realistic suit. I promise you that more likely than not, it will be worth it to wear your suit at the con versus not. Of course, if you are like me and you like both cosplay and fursuiting, you may benefit from wearing your suit one day, wearing a cosplay one other day. Really, it's up to you and the possibilities are endless, or you could even just go as an attendee. There's nothing stopping you from not wearing anything. It is still just as fun to go and see everything. And on that same topic, because these are so expensive and so time consuming to make, if you are worried about being harassed or your suit being damaged, definitely go with a group. People are less likely to harm you or do anything to you when you're in a group, especially if it is a single offender. They're not going to take on 5 people. They might take on one tiny 5'3" female in a fursuit that already has limited vision and limited mobility. If they see that there are 6 people and 5 of them are out of suit, they're less likely to get involved. So it is kind of a deterrent. Again, we'd rather be safe than sorry. Plus, it'll make your trip to the con a lot cheaper. You can share hotel costs, gas costs, food. You might get group rates for things. You can carpool. And of course, who doesn't like hanging out with friends, right? And in this case, and this is probably something you might not necessarily know, a bigger con actually might be better in terms of blending in. Yes, usually I would recommend going to a smaller con, but if you go to a smaller con, you may be the only furry there and you might stick out a little bit more. However, if you go to a bigger con, there may be a larger group of furries or furry-like cosplayers that will normalize wearing fursuits at the con. So, of course, more people are going to be more accepting of less common costumes attending those cons. So you will see that it will actually be less likely that someone will harass you. Also, security will be much better. There will be more people to aid you and stick up for you and be on your side if someone did try to harass you. But whereas if you are at a smaller con, you may be the only anthropomorphic cosplay there, which may cause a stir, a commotion, good or bad. Plus, if you do see other furries or fursuit cosplayers there, you can make friends with them and join up with them and stick to a group. And again, being in a group is strength in numbers and you're less likely to be harassed. So all in all, I am a firm believer that you should fursuit wherever you want. Of course, following all laws, rules, regulations, all that. I think you should be allowed to fursuit at any con. It is your work of art. You paid a lot of money for it. You deserve to show it off. I promise you a ton of people are gonna like. Furry is being much more normalized now, especially through TikTok and social media. And compared to 10 years ago, it feels a lot more accepting than it was. So, in a way, you are also working towards normalizing furries. And nowadays, the more cons that I go to, especially with how things have changed due to COVID, there is really a mishmash of everything. Anime cons are not limited to anime and Japanese characters. Video game cons are not limited to video game characters. Comic cons are not limited to comic characters. All sorts of costumes attend those. So don't feel bad wearing your fursuit when other people are breaking the rules too. You be you and you enjoy your suit and your time at the con. After all, you did pay money to attend. You deserve to be there just like everyone else. That is all for this episode, guys. Do you agree with my points? Do you think furries should be allowed to wear suits at any con? Let me know why you think what you do in the comments down below. As always, if you liked this episode, please consider liking and subscribing, as it really does help me and it lets me know that I am making content worth watching. I post new episodes every Wednesday at 11 a.m., so hit that bell too if you want to be notified first thing. Until next time, guys, I am Kuro from Kemono Dungeon Fursuits. Bye!